What's good, people? Today I'm showing y'all the most efficient full shoulder workout that you can do in likely under 45 minutes. Now, it's gonna be a different style video because I'm currently here alone in Bangkok. I'm also at Boost Fitness BKK, which if you guys haven't seen my previous video working out with the first Thai IFBB Pro, it was filmed at the same exact gym. He's the owner, by the way. Without further ado, let's get to the first exercise. All right, so first exercise is gonna be none other than a seated shoulder press. Now, of course, we don't wanna just jump into our working set. We always wanna warm up first. Nowadays, I don't really do any sort of specialized warm up. Instead, I opt to just slowly scale up the weight on whatever exercise I'm doing. Now, the first exercise, I always try to take at least 3 warm-up sets. And the key thing with the warm-up set is you still want to act like this is like pretty heavy weight. And I like to keep it under like 5 reps because you definitely don't want to fatigue yourself doing warm-ups. Not the point. Sometimes I see a lot of people do like 12 reps for a warm-up set. I'm like, dude, that's way too much. Here we go, warm-up set number 2. Ooh, it's feeling pretty good. It's hot in here. All right, last warm-up set. I wish the seat kind of pivoted up more. I feel like I'm kind of sliding off. We gotta work with what we have. Okay, I'm actually gonna lower the seat just 1 notch. It's a little bit too upright. Should also help with me sliding. When it comes to shoulder press, as long as you're staying above like 70-degree incline, you should be pretty good. I got some good music playing. I don't even need my earphones. All right, working set 1. That was the first I ever done where I didn't even know how many reps I did. I wasn't even counting. A couple of tips when doing the shoulder press. First off, you don't have to use dumbbells. You can also do a machine variation. I just like to choose a shoulder press that is 1, seated, and 2, isolateral, meaning each limb is responsible for its own weight. Now, in terms of depth, I like to aim to just break 90 degrees. So if this is 90, I like to go just a touch lower, at least. As you saw in some of those reps, I actually even dipped even further. Now, one thing I will say is if you're gonna dip below 90 degrees, I don't recommend you pressing in your frontal plane all the way out here, like super wide, right? Usually you're gonna find that if you go lower than 90 degrees in the frontal plane, you end up kind of hurting your shoulder. Instead, I like to press a little bit in front of me in my scapular plane. So I'm pressing more like in this plane, rather than all the way out here. Another note is you saw how slow I went on the eccentric. You want to be keeping tension on the shoulder as you come down. You don't want to just drop it and come back up. And the way I like to quantify this is aim for a 2-second eccentric between every single rep. The last thing I want to talk about is the setup. So you saw that. You want to place the dumbbells on your knees, and then to make things efficient, you want to use your lower body to kick the weights up. This is a much more surefire way than just trying to like drag it up or muscle on the way up. But okay, I'm gonna throw in a wild card because it doesn't end here. I'm actually gonna be supersetting this with 2 sets of a chest-supported rear delt row. This no longer is my favorite rear delt exercise, but I find that since we're using dumbbells and a bench, this is gonna be a pretty easy thing to do since you just gotta turn around. It doesn't involve you using 2 different equipment. We're actually gonna lower the seat up a notch, and then we're gonna be doing this rear delt row. Now, the key thing that determines whether you're doing a row for the rear delts versus a row for your lats or any other muscle in your back is with a rear delt row, you want to avoid scapular retraction. Generally, you just don't want to have your shoulder blades move around that much. Scapular retraction is essentially when you squeeze your shoulder blades back, right? So thinking about squeezing your shoulder blades back, this is going to be more of a mid-back focused row. And in terms of your degree of elbow flare, I like to go right around the middle, around 45 degrees. You don't want to be too closely tight to your body or else it's going to be a more lat-focused row. On the other hand, I feel like if you go too wide, it's a lot more intuitive to squeeze your shoulder blades back, which again, like I mentioned, you want to avoid. But a trick I like to do that I show a lot of my coaching clients, if you're having trouble feeling it in your rear delts, I actually like to bring the seat up pretty high to around, call it like 60 to 70 degrees. And then from this angle, it's a lot easier for you to avoid scapular retraction, okay? Now keep in mind, this essentially turns the exercise to a more shortened partial, which I'm gonna admit is not exactly ideal. But when you're comparing doing a shortened partial that actually trains the muscle group you're trying to train versus doing it a different way that gives you a better range of motion, but probably is involving other muscle groups, for the sake of isolation, I probably would take that first option. The last thing to note, if you're gonna do it this way with the high seat angle, you wanna avoid just rolling backwards because of course you're bound by gravity, right? So if you look at where my elbow ends up pointing, it's more upwards. So don't do this, do this, right? Almost like I'm elbowing upwards. I'm not elbowing back, upwards. All right, on to set number 2. Now, this superset combo I'm doing is known as an antagonistic superset, which essentially means the 2 exercises are involving opposite muscle groups and thus not really interfering with each other, at least directly. There is gonna be an element of systemic fatigue, meaning like you're just gonna be naturally tired if you take the first exercise to failure. And if you can jump right into the second exercise, it's probably gonna hinder your performance there. So I recommend taking like at least a 45-second rest in between the 2 exercises. And since we're doing 2 compound movements, you're probably gonna be better off allowing for like 3 minutes of rest in between the overall sets. See you in the next exercise. Also real quick, if you're looking for affordable, high quality gym clothes, I highly recommend you check out Able, which is my clothing sponsor. They have high quality gym clothes, especially for the price that not a whole lot of other people are wearing since their men's line is new. It's literally been out for like a year. If you're gonna cop yourself some gear, make sure you use code PATH to get 10% off your order, as well as it being a way to support my page. It would be much appreciated. Back to the content. All right, exercise number 2 for these side delts is gonna be the lying cable out raise. But if you don't wanna do this exercise, you can just do a regular behind the back cable out raise, ideally on a V cable setup like this. Now, the reason why I like this exercise so much is because it is the most stable way you can do a lateral raise. Now, stability is important because of course it allows you to push closer to failure. And in the case of the side delts, I feel like it is a muscle group where if you're doing a lateral raise, it's very easy to involve other muscle groups, especially as you approach failure, namely your traps or even like your biceps sometimes. So the stability really helps with that. Now, you saw that I was kind of using like a weird grip where I'm actually like grabbing the handle. What I'm doing is using the D handle as a cuff. So I'm actually kind of like putting it on my forehand. Now, common mistake is you don't want to put it on your wrist or else it's just gonna slide up. It's just gonna feel really weird. Instead, you put it on your forehand. I actually flex my wrist down like this, just so that it doesn't end up sliding. If I keep my wrist like here, it's just gonna slide. Now, ultimately, I do recommend sticking to either machines or cables and not dumbbells just because of the resistance profile. What I mean is, in the case of a dumbbell lateral raise, the hardest parts can be up here where the side delts are most shortened. In the case of a cable lateral raise, you can make that hardest part more down here or all the way down here in the stretch position. Now this is important because there's a lot more studies coming out that show that training muscles at these longer lengths, meaning having exercises that allow the muscle to get a good stretch, as well as have the hardest point in that more stretch position, tend to be better for building muscles. And on top of that, you're just able to keep tension on the side delts a lot better with cables compared to a dumbbell lateral raise where there's no resistance down here. Move on to set number 2. Now, a key thing with this to help you keep tension on your side delts is to stay wide. Pretend you're like drawing a snow angel and you want to make that snow angel have the longest, biggest wings possible. So it's like you're really staying wide. Instead of focusing on bringing your arms up, you're thinking about bringing your arms out. All right, moving on to the next exercise, I'm gonna get rid of these cables. Now real quick, if you like what you've seen so far and you wanna work with me, I highly recommend you apply to my exclusive one-on-one fitness coaching program where I pretty much take the guesswork out of getting to your fitness goals. You'll know exactly what workout programs you should be doing, generally what you should be eating. I take a more lenient approach on dieting in general, just because it's more sustainable that way, as well as the ability to ask pretty much any questions you might have. So if that sounds interesting to you, apply in the link in the description. Let's move on to the third exercise, which of course we're going back to rear delts. And this is gonna be a high to low cable rear delt fly. I'm gonna do a quick warm-up set. Now when I'm doing this exercise, I like taking a hook grip, meaning I'm not just like grabbing the cables and have my thumbs, exposed. I'll show you this real quick. So instead of just grabbing like this like normal, what I'm gonna do is start with my thumb, pull my 4 fingers over the thumb, and this is gonna be known as a hook grip. Of course, we're gonna be cross-arming it, so it's gonna be this way. All right, what we're gonna be doing here is 2 sets of a high-low cable rear delt fly. ending in the 8 to 12 rep range. Now keep in mind, for all these exercises, you can also do them unilaterally, meaning one arm at a time, but I'm just doing the bilateral variation. And similar to the side delts, the rear delts tend to be a muscle that is hard to actually pinpoint whether you're training or not. But I find that the high-low cable rear delt fly, this exact exercise I'm doing, is the best way to actually end up feeling it in your rear delts. In the beginning, you might not really feel anything, but all of a sudden, at the end of your set, it's like you just hit a wall randomly. Now there's a couple reasons why I'm doing the high to low setup. You probably have seen like people do a rear delt fly like this at shoulder height, but like I mentioned earlier, I find that, if you're training in this plane of motion, it's a lot easier for you to want to squeeze your shoulder blades back. Compared to if you're going like this, it's a little bit less intuitive for you to naturally want to squeeze your shoulder blades back, which will help you be able to bias your rear delts better. Because like I mentioned, same rules still apply. You want to avoid scapular retraction. I actually recommend you kind of hunch over a little bit when you're doing this exercise. All right, so the last exercise we're gonna be doing is gonna be a machine bent arm lateral raise. Now, I love this exercise because just like the first lateral raise variation we were doing, this is also a very stable way to perform the exercise. Now, stability becomes especially important later in your workout because as you go through your workout, you're gonna be more fatigued. So you're probably not gonna be wanting to think about stabilizing or anything. Now, a couple things with this exercise, you wanna make sure the seat height is at a height where you actually have tension in this bottom position. So if the seat height is too low, for me here, for example, it's like I have to press out a little bit in order to actually get any tension. But if I raise the seat height to the correct height, the pen should feel like it's like pressing me against my body, right? So I pretty much already have tension in this bottom position. On top of that, I recommend kind of leaning forward a little bit, so you might have to sit near the corner of the seat and kind of bend forward in order to better line up the side delts with the line of force and avoid getting your front delts as involved. The last thing, of course, is you want to stay wide when you're doing this exercise, just like on the other lateral raise variation. All right, people, and that was the most efficient full shoulder workout. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know how this workout goes when you try it. Don't skip out on that line cable lateral raise. Hit subscribe to level up your physique. Hit the bell notification. Get these videos right to you. Guarantee there's people out there that just did shoulders right before they watch this video. And look forward to the upcoming videos while I'm here in Thailand. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.